Carolyn Herbert and welcome to Small Business. First up on today's show, let's see what's trending in the small business sector with Jacki Mitchell, producer and host of Taking Care of Business on RPP FM. She joins us live from our Melbourne studio. Well, good afternoon to you, Jacki. Let's start with market research. It's a big topic of conversation at the moment. So how can it help SMEs make business decisions?
Hi Carolyn, good afternoon. Market research is critical for SMEs making business decisions, and that's the key, business decisions. So market research can help you make those decisions by de-risking the decision. So I suppose it depends how big the business decision is, depends on how much market research you actually do. There's quite a lot of free research out there already, so I always advise clients, and I hear experts say the same thing, to look at what you've currently got before you start embarking on some empirical research, to have a look at some data you've already got within your business. And a really good place to start is your website. So if your website's something that you need to run your business successfully, you must have Google Analytics installed on it, and you can track it. You can see the behaviour, what's happening on your website, how people are using it, how long they're staying, what pages they're visiting. It's free, and that's critical. Another good one is on Facebook. They have an Insights page, and that'll tell you what time of day is the best day to post, to put posts up there, the activity of the people that are looking, or your customers that are looking onto your Facebook page. The other one, the good old-fashioned one, is good old customer feedback. To make sure you've got a system or a process in place in your business that can track that feedback. So you start identifying trends, you start getting an insight, but the market research is all about looking at it from the customer's perspective, not your own.
Now, Jacki, on your show, you've used the term big data. It is a buzzword, but what does it actually mean for SMEs?
Yeah, it's good. Well, I always like to know the meaning of these buzzwords, but as a marketer, we love a buzzword. Big data is all about understanding customer behaviour, so looking at a huge amount of data, pretty much what it says it is, and understanding what your customers' behaviours are, what trends are being set, and using that information to then build a database and creating relationships with customers. A couple of experts I had on the show in the last couple of weeks have said that building customer relationships is going backwards. So we need to put systems and processes in place that are going to build that relationship with your desired customer, not everyone in the whole world, but actually being very segmented, understanding who your customer is, and putting a system in place to build that relationship. And it's something that Generation Y don't do so well, is what the experts are saying. So it's really important to do that. Customers want a relationship with your business, and it's about how good you are at your business. Do you want a relationship with your customers? And if both of you are happy, happy days, happy business.
And Jacki, what trends are you seeing in customer movements at the moment?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest customer insights, we had the Director of Customer Insights from Telstra on, and she was talking about this snacking behaviour, or sushi learning, this bite-sized learning. Obviously, the use of the mobile device, or the mobile phone and tablet, is becoming increasingly popular. And she was saying about 10-minute intervals. So what people are doing, that's that snacking behaviour, looking for information quickly, easily, and in short little bite-sized bits of behaviour. And I think that's really critical if you're a business looking at communicating with customers, maybe not doing 1 hour long webinars or having all-day conferences, maybe looking at alternatives and utilising this trend of snacking behaviour. And one of the understanding or reasons why this is happening is that we are overloaded with information. Our poor little brains have not evolved to all the amount of information that's around at the moment, so it's a coping mechanism. So we start filtering information out, and so by coping with that, we start snacking. And I think that's really critical for understanding what your customer movements are.
And Jacki, coming back to the topic of Gen Ys, what sort of trends are you seeing in relation to Gen Ys and how they run their businesses?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting. They come from a much more blended work environment. So they basically say work is all about, work is part of me. It's not you know, this work-life balance that was the Gen X theme of the 90s. It's very much work is part of me, so I will work 24/7, but it needs to be blended. So they become much more output-driven rather than input-driven. So they want to be measured on their outputs. So they'll say, measure me on my outcomes, as opposed to turning up at an office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So what they'll say is, give me 3 projects or 4 projects, the priorities, the outcomes you want me to deliver on, give me a deadline and I'll work towards that. How I go about doing that is almost irrelevant. So if I want to start work at midday, I want to leave at 3 to see the kids' school sports, whatever it is, it's very much outcome driven. And I think that's the real reflection of this modern working environment. And this term, another buzzword, Carolyn, telecommuting. And that's pretty much being very mobile, being able to work from your car, work from your home office, work from coffee shops. And that's a real modern workplace trend. And it's this term called the naked economy, which is alternative forms of employment, so non-traditional forms of employment. So Gen X bosses need to adjust their attitude, adjust the way they work to make the Gen Ys happier at work. And the Gen Ys are also very much socially aware, so they want to know when they work for a company, what difference is this company making to society? So it's not just based on profit anymore, it's about what difference are you making to society.
Now, time management, Jackie, is another topic that's been discussed on your show. So what would you say the trials and tribulations are for SMEs compared to, say, bigger companies?
Yeah, well, most SMEs I speak to, the number one issue is time. I think we can all relate to that. Everyone's busy at the moment. No one's more busier than anyone else. And time is always the issue. So any tips to help save some time, create extra time? It is our most precious resource. And there's a few tips that I've got, and I'm going to try and work really hard to implement some of these. The number one biggest time waster, particularly for SMEs, is the use of emails. Apparently about 28% of our day is spent on emails. But ironically, not a lot of training is done on, say, Microsoft Outlook, is where most of our email is used. So most training will be on Excel or PowerPoint, not on Outlook. So a tip is to go and get some training on Outlook to make sure you're using it as effectively as you can. The other tip is to consolidate, to only use one diary. Now, I've certainly been guilty of this, is that I've still got the paper diary, a lot of people still do that, but they've also got their electronic diary, whether it's on their PC or on their phone. And they're managing a couple of different diaries. And if you're managing a couple of different businesses, that adds to it as well. So the tip was from Dr. Declutter that I had on, a great expert, and she suggested just to manage one diary. The other key tip is to have 3 priorities per day. So start each day with 3 priorities, and the first task you do is the number 1 priority. And so by the end of each day, you can successfully say, well, I've completed my top 3 priorities, and everything else I do on top of that is a bonus. So I think they're really good time management tips, Carolyn.
And Jackie, finally, looking at event management, it may be sort of lower on the agenda for some small businesses, but would you say it's as important for SMEs as, say, bigger corporations?
Oh, absolutely. Every business, no matter how big, small you are, always have an event. Now that event could be a launch, it could be a seminar, it could be a conference, it could be a Christmas party. There's lots of different events to be held. And one of the biggest mistakes is that they become too predictable. A lot of business people get invited to a lot of events, and firstly you've got to try and get them there, so the timing of them is important. So don't have an event at 7:30 at night when in the middle of winter, when it's dark, you've had a big day at work, you just want to get home. So think about what customers are coming, who you've invited, and what's going to work best for them, not for you. So whether it's a breakfast, whether it's 4 till 6, so keep them short, don't let them go on for 4 or 5 hours. Even an hour or 2 hours is plenty of time, but the key is to have a plan. What message is it you're wanting to communicate to your customers? So when they leave your event, What do you want them to think? So it's like a brainwashing exercise. What is it? What's the takeaway? What's the takeout message? To be really clear about that before you start planning your event, or as you're planning it, and that will then help determine how you structure that event. A lot of corporations, small businesses, big businesses run events like they're running their party at home, a birthday party. A lot of business events, people come on their own. They do not bring their plus one. They quite often will drop in on the way home from work or before work. So make sure there's a host there to look after those people on their own, because what you'll find is they'll walk in, they're not quite sure if they know anyone, and they'll be looking at their phone and not really having a good time. So making sure all those elements are considered will be a good start to making sure your event's a success.
Jacki, some wonderful advice there. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Good talking with you, thank you.
Legislation for the proposed $5 billion small business package has hit the table in Parliament. Small business